Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pannon.
I'm P-Fire.
And I'm David.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, you guys!
Happy birthmas! Merry birthmas!
birthmas! Yes, within the span of just a few, slightly over a week is all three of our birthdays, so we are very excited to be...
Yeah, I think mine's the latest one in July, and it's not even 10 days in, so...
Yeah. So,
Mine's
happy
done.
birthday. Hope you guys got to do fun things for your birthdays by the time this episode airs.
I played Minecraft.
Yeah, you did.
And made, what is the word I'm looking for? Raised $75 for Extra Life.
That's so
Heck
cool.
yeah.
It's
Nice.
not a lot, but it's a start.
Hey, everything
So-
helps. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know I put this in our Facebook group, but I saw that Humble Bundle is doing another charity thing for their cosplay bundles.
Oh my gosh, yes. I love
they're
that.
donating to the Trevor Project, and they have almost $25,000 already. And there's a ton of really good books, and there's even some that weren't in the first set that came out. So
What?
I'm really excited to get them.
I need to go look at that.
It's really good, yeah. So definitely worth checking out.
I've noticed that you always say something, I'm like, I need to do that and I need to do that. There's a lot I need to do.
Well, if you listeners at home have any fun projects, fun charity things you want to promote, we love hearing about those. Also your horror stories, your happy stories, and just how you're doing in general, you can send those to us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com or
you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and fill out the googly Google form, or
Go to the Facebook page, send us your message there, and we would love to hear all of your stories there as well. And while you're there, join our Work in Progress Wednesdays, or wait for a link for our Discord server where some of today's stuff came from. And it's so great. I was able to talk about, there was this huge conversation about Loki. It's so great. And, and Castlevania and video game. So good. I love our community, you guys. It's fantastic.
We got an amazing compliment from my brother, by the way. So he runs his own Discord channels and does streaming and all that kind of stuff. He's super good at it. He's almost about to make Twitch affiliate. I'm proud of him.
Wow, that's so cool.
So he joined the Discord recently, and he messages me the other day and he goes, "Your Discord won't shut up." And I'm like, "Oh," and he's like, "That's a good thing, I promise." So apparently it's great. So that's a compliment from my brother.
Yeah, I love that people will come in and just take time to chat, and I can't always catch up when it goes fast, but I try, and y'all are really fun, and I love seeing your projects. And
it's my new doom scroll.
Ooh, that's a good doom scroll.
Okay,
It is.
It is
when
a
I'm
good one.
at night and I needed a good doom scroll, I go through there because it makes me feel happy.
Good.
No, it's what's really great is that we have people all around the world in Europe and in Australia.
Yes.
So it's really great to see 2:00 in the morning people are talking. It's not great for my sleep, but it's great to see. And then I'll be like, but what are they talking about? I want to know. I have no spoons at that point to actually add to anything, but then I'll get to see
just lurk.
lurk as I watch X Angel stay up too late and Glasses and Disasters stay up too. Well, they're in Australia. It's middle of the day for them.
Yeah.
So
They're not staying up late. They're normal.
Yeah, they're normal. They're totally normal. X Angel also has a kid, so I imagine sleep is when it ever happens.
X Angel, you and me, we're gonna get our cosplays done. It's gonna be amazing.
Heck yeah.
Yay.
So that's our Discord. If you wanted to help us out in any other way, that we have so many different ways that you can do that. First, join the club by just sharing the podcast with a friend. That helps us out a lot. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on Audible, on Podchaser, or wherever they let you, and we'll give you a shout out on the show. And if you've got a couple of bucks that you want to throw our way to help keep the lights on, we're planning on some new digital web face kind of thing going on. So any and all donations are helpful at our Patreon, patreon.com/cosplay stitch. $3 a month, you get a shout out on the show. And for $5 a month, you are joining our monthly D&D live stream of the Cosplay Chronicles.
Chronicles.
I'm sorry. That sentence got really far away from me. I apologize.
You're like, I need to take a breath.
Yeah, I didn't know
There's
where
just
to put
so much
that.
excitement in one sentence.
It really was. So So we just did our live stream, and because we're doing the SaltCon, which Pan and you can talk about in just a second, we're going to take a bit of a break because as a DM, that's tiring. It's so tiring. It's fun, tiring. So instead of that, we're doing the SaltCon. What's the details on that, Pannon?
Yeah, we're doing SaltCon. It's going to be Sunday, August 1st at the Davis Conference Center out in Layton, I believe, at 1 p.m. You can join us for some live play D&D from the Cosplay Chronicles. You can actually become a playable character in our episode. So it's going to be a one-off.
Do it.
And yeah, you can come play with Faya and Draxel and Talon and Rain and David, of course.
Yeah. I get the level of importance there, definitely.
Maybe I'll get Tolan killed off in this one.
Oh no. Is it a goal?
No, it's not, but
goal.
I keep putting him in trouble. He's in so much trouble all the time.
Oh, man.
All the time.
If you'd like to join us for that, tickets are still available for Sunday. And you can actually sign up to be one of the players at our table. So make sure you take advantage of that and join us if you can. As always, if you guys want to check out foxbeautycosmetics.com, that's Fox with 2 X's, beautycosmetics.com. Use the promo code Stitch and Seam to get 10% off your purchase of all vegan, not tested on animal products. And yeah, I think that's all of our announcements.
Heck yeah.
Oh, wait.
But you got more?
Do you remember that community project with the brush?
Yes.
You're passing the brush?
Yeah.
It's actually coming out. The video's coming out.
Oh my gosh.
Watch for it on the 17th. So
heck yes.
On the YouTube channels.
Yes, on the YouTube channels. I am so
tubes of you.
So sorry to listen to all of our listeners and those who put their videos into it. I promise that it does exist. Just Day Camp's got away with my life this summer, but it is coming up. It's pretty awesome. I'm pretty proud of how it turned out, and I'm proud of you guys.
Yay!
So I'm
Sounds
really
good.
excited to show off your work on it.
Yeah. So speaking of community projects, for our birthday episode, you guys at home sent us in some of your fan fiction, and we are super excited to read it today. So thank you guys for sending those in.
You guys are amazing writers.
Yes,
this was some good stuff.
Good. Who wants to go first?
It's a lot of pressure.
Well, I kind of want to be egotistical, because X-Angel wrote a Last Voice fanfic.
I know, I thought that was so cool.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Legitimately, it brought me so much joy.
I love this.
So I'm just... Yeah, so egotistical, there's a part of me no, we should save this for last, but I want to get to this now.
No, do it. I want to hear it. I want to hear you read it. Yes.
Well, it's a collaborative effort.
Collaborative effort, that's right.
Did ask that I read the intro and outro, essentially, and then Pannon, you're going to read the 7-day journal entries. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I am so excited for this. Okay, I'm going to be quiet now.
I'm anxious. This is weird. It feels weird. We ready? We all comfy?
Yeah.
We all ready to go?
Get cozy, get your popcorn, get your juice.
I got my invisible popcorn.
The last 7 days. The following are edited transcriptions from a journal kept by a survivor of the event. From what has been gathered, there is no incriminating information and no real study of the made by the author. Some entries were difficult to decipher, but it is believed all relevant information has been copied. All dates have been scrubbed, numbering beginning from the once quarantine has been completed. The original entries will be returned to the owner. No pattern has been established regarding survivors of the medical tests are being run.
Day 1. I don't know what's going on. There was this bright light, and I got an uneasy feeling. I locked and blocked the doors, made sure there was no easy way into the back garden. My alarm didn't go off this morning, and I went to call into work, but nothing electronic was working. Everything's quiet aside from the wind rustling outside. I'm grateful the boys are out of town. I'm probably just being paranoid. The power's probably been shot as the landline isn't even carrying static. I want to see what's going on. I'll figure out what to do later. I think I just need some sleep. Sophia. Day 2. I woke up today to something loud banging on the house. I used one of the front bedrooms to look outside, and it just seemed like some drunk forgot where he lived. All the electronics have stayed off, and there's nothing being broadcast anywhere, not that I have a radio to listen. I tried calling on the landline, first Cole, then work, then the emergency number. I still couldn't get static on the line, but I had hoped pressing numbers would do something. What's the point of a landline if it's not connected? Being alone here, everyone else on that trip, I find myself wishing I had gotten coverage for work. Instead, I'm at home, anxious, and increasingly annoyed whenever I come across my in-laws' things. At least we don't share a bathroom. I'm grateful that the water's still running at least. I suspect that if there was a gas range, I would actually be able to cook things. If the power's not back on tomorrow, I think I'll need to venture out to just get a feel for what's happening around me. I keep getting this feeling that things aren't safe, that I need to get safe. Sophia. Day 3. I woke up with the sun today, still feeling anxious, still feeling like the world's off, like a video playing the wrong subtitles. They both make sense, just not together. So I packed a small rucksack and went out into the back garden. It was easier to unblock and reblock than the front door, and I just didn't want anything entering the house aside from me. I don't know what's happened out there. It seems like everyone's gone, but they aren't. Not exactly. I don't have a better word for the people, the creatures I came across, which is ironic considering I was never a fan of the genre, so for now, I'll call them zombies. Maybe ghouls? I recognized some people from the neighborhood, but they were shambling about, dead eyes, what looked like oil coming from their orifices. I tried to keep my distance. I made my way to the local petrol station, no cars driving, no birds singing. I made my way back, wary of all the has-beens. Oh, look at that. I can't even commit to the word I picked out for them. I tried making calls again. Still no static, still no noise. I think I cried for a little bit, upstairs, alone in our room. I think it's the first time I've cried at home since we moved in with the in-laws. I'm grateful I didn't have to see my family become those husks. I don't want to think about the possibility of waking up and having my family dead, but moving. Sophia. Day 4. Today I woke up before the sun again, listening and hearing nothing. I checked my barricades before setting up some paper and drawing plans for going south to Arizona. That's where my boys should be. That's where the family should be. I hope I'm not deluding myself that whatever has happened is isolated to Utah. I don't think I could make it on foot, so I'm going to try and use one of the cars. If I can take Cole's, that's ideal. Mine is so old. If it breaks down, I will be without a vehicle. So I'm waiting on deciding what car. Part of me wants to observe and see what's going on with the has-beens. That name's sticking. I guess that's what they are now. See what they react to, if anything keeps them away. And that sort of thing is important to know if I was going to stay here. I think it's a higher priority to get out of here. I know I can learn on the way. That's the other part. That everything is dangerous and I just need to remove myself from the situation. The best defense is not being in the situation. Something picked up from one of those self-defense seminars over the years. After I made my plan, I packed the luggage because if a car does break down, I can wheel those alongside the road. I packed all my other journals, the family journal. Those felt important to bring. Like, if I'm truly the only survivor, it's a history of how life was. I also grabbed my instrument. It's one of the few hobbies I have left, and I'd rather not give it up. And of course, some clothing for all weathers. Tomorrow, I'm going to risk going to market to get foods. It'll have to be non-perishables. Water will be useful too. I should bring the buggy. It'll be quieter than any cart, and I already know how to maneuver it. I feel like I'm losing my mind. No one to talk to, no one to keep me from spiraling. Cole is good at that. I don't want to get too hopeful, but I can't do this without him. If he's alive, I can get to him. If he's alive and our son's alive, it won't matter how hard it will be to rebuild. We'll have each other. And I get a sense that's really important. What am I grateful for today? I'm grateful I have a place to sleep that still has washing and drinking water. Sophia. Day 5. Well, I had enough excitement to last me, potentially the rest of my life. All of these extra pounds betrayed me today on my way to the market. I took Nolan's buggy with me, hoping I could lie low with it, get enough foods, and be ready to leave, maybe tonight. That has been pushed to tomorrow for reasons. Getting to market was fine. Didn't even have to look for cars for crossing the street. I don't know how long it took me to get there, seeing things abandoned and left. I might have to jump whichever car I decide to use, which the has-beens, they react to noise. I was quiet enough on the way to the supermarket, avoiding them where I could, but the RPG discount very much depends on not getting caught by anything. So I loaded up the bottom of the buggy with a few of those 2.5-gallon portable water, and then I started going through the aisles one by one, kind of like what Cole and I do when shopping to restock everything at home, just surveying and seeing what I could take and wouldn't need a cooler to keep. My luck was amazing. There weren't too many has-beens, and I was able to go through most of the store without problem. But then I figured electrolytes, even if the food goes bad, some of those drinks engineered for sports players would keep me in a good place for a bit. So I spun the buggy around. I wish we had gotten that wagon we looked at, but we're waiting on the summer bonus. We're waiting. Anyway, I made it to the sports drinks, and all the ones I could reach easily were all in flavors I'm allergic to. No problem. No has-beens around this end of the store. I start pulling flavors down to try and get to the ones I can safely drink. I kept checking around and see if any has-beens are coming toward me, and I think I'm safe. I finally reach the flavor and I pull it out. At first I thought I was just weak and couldn't lift something that heavy, but on the second tug, the other half of the display came clattering down, some plastic jugs bouncing off the floor and others I'd already pulled off, some breaking and leaking the too bright colors all over the floor. It caused a cascading effect, knocking into the juice shelving and bringing down even more bottles, some glass. I froze, just waiting and listening to see what would happen. The has-beens were more quiet than any media let on, or I just caused enough noise to cover up for them. Luckily, I was unhurt, definitely sticky, when I snapped out of it as the first has-beens came around the corner. I picked my way over to the buggy. Frantic, I decided to throw something to make more noise on the end furthest from me. One of the smaller glass bottles of some seltzer. I sent it flying down the aisles, and while the noise called their attention for a moment, they knew I was there. I got the buggy free next, cursing myself to remember to count them in the future. I didn't know how many I would have to avoid. I don't know if they're contagious, how dangerous they are. Every few aisles I would grab something small and lob it behind me, or the opposite direction I ended. Breaking sight with them seemed to add to the noise confusion I was trying to generate. Once I got in a clear shot of the doors, I also had a clear shot of how many has-beens I would have to go through. Just a handful, 5 or 6, but enough to be intimidating. But not the ones I saw near my spill in the far aisle. I glanced around, trying to see what noises I could generate, and saw a display of jam, potentially glass bottles. I slowed and quietly moved to the other side and grabbed the heaviest thing nearby, one of those monster gallons of milk, and lobbed it at the display. I was lucky today. The milk connected and broke the display. Milk and jam and glass splattered all across the floor, and the has-beens moved toward the noise. I circled around and made it outside, stifling a whoop. There were more outside. But outside it was quiet, and so was my buggy, and it took me much longer to get home than getting to market. I didn't want to take any chances. I felt sick by the time I reached home and just focused on bringing everything inside quickly and quietly. It's been dark for some time. I guess I just needed to get a lot of this out of my head and onto paper. I think I need to leave tomorrow. I know I wanted to get more supplies before heading to Arizona, but I can't do this alone, and I'm all alone. If anyone survived in this area, if anyone saw me today, they didn't help. They didn't reach out to see what was going on. I always had this idea that the end of the world would necessitate people banding together. But if there's no one left, there's no way to band together. I'm grateful I'm still me, that I was able to get the needed things and come home safe. I need to get some sleep if I'm leaving tomorrow. Figure out the other things on the way. Sophia. Day 6. I started too late today. I was able to get Cole I was able to get Cole's car loaded up, and I found a jerry can and hose, cleaned them out, and siphoned the petrol from my car. Tastes just as horrible as one might imagine, but I won't have to worry too much about getting petrol on the way if the stations aren't working. I figured I should pack more of Nolan's favorite things, some stuffed animals and blankets that he loves, but couldn't bring with him on such a short vacation. Maybe I overpacked, but I'm taking the car. The battery took a moment to get working again. Very glad we invested in one of those jumper cable sets with that self-contained battery, and I turned the car off just as quickly as I could so as not to attract the has-beens. I took some of the portable electronics with me, not that they work currently, and some camping gear. Cole said that it was about an 11 or 10-hour drive, but I just don't know what I'm getting into. I think it was about noon before I had everything loaded in the car and ready to leave the house, and I was dragging my feet. I know that I need to go if I have a chance at being with my family, but the drive was daunting, and not knowing if we would be able to come back for anything, it made it harder to leave the house than I anticipated. So I made sure I ate and grabbed the things I would regret leaving behind because that was what I was doing. So I definitely overpacked, but again, I'm not carrying most of the things I decided to bring. And then I began the drive. Made sure all the car doors were locked and that my water was easy to reach, and then I started the car and I left the neighborhood. It was interesting, maneuvering around all of the dead cars. Anything electric just seemed like it had been fried, so driving slower than the speed limit with no radio or music from the car, bless the soul who thought combustion and chemical reactions would carry us far, they were right. The first few times a has-been came toward the car, they were frightening to say the least, but I was able to speed up and swerve out of the way before anything bad happened. I think I'm very lucky. In spite of the hellscape I now live in, or maybe it's because of the apocalypse I'm lucky, the highways were much the same, almost like nighttime driving, except instead of moving cars, they were parked. So as soon as I saw some cars, I moved around them. The point of the mountain separating the Salt Lake Valley from Utah Valley was probably the worst. So many cars, I had to be very careful driving in between them. I took full liberty of the shoulders and toll lanes and got very good at spotting highway has-beens before I could hit them. I did hit a few, but not at a high speed, nothing to leave a dent, and the has-been appeared to be in the same condition. I did not check when I hit them, rather that particular check was once the sun started setting. The car is displaying time again, but considering it was restarted when I jumped the car, I'm not counting that as the correct time. Anyway, the sun started setting, and I figured it would be a good idea to find someplace to sleep. I don't know if the has-beens sleep, and I don't want to risk hitting anything on the road when it will be exponentially more dangerous. I'm not sure what town I ended up stopping in. Too small for a big sign with the name on it, I guess. I think it might be in Hurricane, but I just don't remember the names I saw while driving. I have the windows cracked. I rearranged everything I brought so I could sleep in the back seat, and since I don't think I made too much noise, no one has come to check up on me. Nothing has come to check up on me. I'm definitely writing a lot more now that I've got no one around to talk to. I'm not even sure who will read these journals or if they'll last long enough to mean anything. Or if they mean anything now. I do think keeping records is important, but I don't know if my mundane lists of my days are important, or will be. I try to write something I'm grateful for each day to try and stave off the depression, and it's so hard. I don't know if I'm going to survive long enough to read back on these entries and say, wow, I'm grateful I wrote so much. I know that this really made me who I am today. Or if someone else will see the struggles to find something for each day and realize that it's okay if everything seems bleak as long as you can find something growing. I'm grateful I'm on my way to Cole and Nolan. I hope they aren't too worried. Sophia. Day 7. Well, not even the end of the day, and I'm writing in here. I woke up and got back on the freeway, and there were less and less cars as I went on. I think I may have seen a bird's shadow at one point, but I don't really recall seeing any animals since this all began. But In the distance, as I write, there's some sort of barricade. I think there might actually be people. Or maybe at least one person. I don't think I'm in Arizona yet, but maybe I wasn't too wrong to be hopeful that Cole and Nolan are still out there and that we can grow together. I'm writing in here one last time. I can't believe I've actually come to the end of another journal, and I suppose my next entry will be in the next book. I'm so grateful for the inexplicable luck I've had just getting this far, and hopefully my luck will keep up, and hopefully I can call Cole soon and tell him that I'm fine, and hopefully I can hear my boys and know they are all right, that we can move forward. It's like I'm some sort of dandelion that's growing through the cracks. I'm so excited to move on and not forget this chapter of my life, but take comfort in that it's ended, and that if anything like it happens again, I can handle it. Farewell until the next pages. Sophia. Finn.
Author's notes. So I have enjoyed David's podcast, but some of it is heavy. Yes, it is. There's not really any mention of what's happened to children in the event, and that's also a very heavy topic to consider. I figure I would write a story about a parent going through this, but with the hope that their family is safe. That way, if any of it weighs too deeply, there's an open-ended way to process the what-ifs. Until more of the podcast is released, I don't really know what'll happen with Sophia. I like trying to stay canon compliant, and if people like what I've done here, I may revisit in the future. I will be the first to say, yes, I like it. I like what you've done here.
Yeah, so good.
I love the whole point of view from, like, the mother and, like, her trying to get to her kids and just, like, it's so good.
Thank you so much, X-Angel, for submitting that. It was so fun to read. I hope you put it on, like, AO3 or something, because I would love to see it there, too, so I can send you some kudos.
Some notes from the actual, world creator or whatever. I don't know what it is, but this was fantastic. It captured the tone so beautifully, and I don't know how many times like somebody who wrote fic can hear from the actual creator of the story they were so inspired to write themselves. You did it beautifully. You matched a lot of the tone. You made your own character. You hit some of the key points that I like to think make the last voice. As far as world building goes, it was fantastic. Please continue writing, even if it's not in this world.
And also, I want to say, like, super brave too. Like, I had like noble ambitions of writing one for Cosplay Chronicles, but like I got so intimidated. That's why I asked you so many questions about Maggie. But I got so intimidated by like trying to make my own thing within your world that I talked myself out of it, and I just loved seeing this because it's so creative and fun, and like I really enjoyed this fic.
So good. It was so good. I'm so pleased. I'm not crying. You're crying.
Should we give you a moment and let Mercedes read the next one?
Yeah, I think Mercedes.
Sweet.
I think you're required to do the next one at this point.
Sounds good. I also want to add in there that I liked the I might have hit one or two. that made me laugh out loud.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so mine is Nothing But Flowers by Dr. Steggy. This one's kind of a somber one, but it's very beautiful too, so I'm excited to read this one. Okay. It's 3 months after the end of Calamity, and Link and Zelda realize they are not who they were. What does this mean moving forward for them? There's a hill overlooking Kakariko that gives a peaceful view of the village with its pools and waterfalls, its boxy houses. It's a great place to sit and think. You can spend an entire day there easily, just watching the motion and routines of the people below. If you turn to the west, you get a clear view of the broken towers of Hyrule Castle. For nearly 3 months, it's been free of the miasma that surrounded it for the past century. It is still empty and foreboding, a reminder of how things used to be. The last princess of Hyrule sits on the ground above Kakariko, chin resting on her knees, arms wrapped around her shins, looking west, remembering. She has been oddly empty since the calamity ended, in a bowl of golden light. She had 100 years to roil deep in the malice, wondering if it was simply her forever, the price she paid for finding the key to her lock too late. As long as she stood, there was hope, but she stood alone. Until the day Link had stumbled out of the cave on the Great Plateau. For a while she had stood alone as he worked his way through the world. She watched his every move, calling him back to task sometimes, holding her breath sometimes, quietly celebrating sometimes. When he finally charged into the sanctum, her hold broke, and the end began. Then it was his turn to hold things down while she got to work. How strange it had been after, with the last of those purple-black sparks drifting off on the wind. To stand in Hyrule Field, in her ceremonial sandals and white dress, as though nothing had happened the last 100 years. There was just Link, panting from battle, his tunic torn and stained, bow still in hand, eyes wide and wild. Just Link in a field of flowers. It would have been peaceful, aside from the burdened swaths of ground marking what had just happened. He said he remembered when she asked, and she ran to him, but she wasn't sure if she believed him later. She thought that maybe she'd have done the same no matter what his answer, because he was all that remained from what she'd known, what they'd both known. He had dropped her off at Impa's, then dipped his eyes away and left in silence, the flush going all the way to the tips of his ears. He had left Kakariko almost immediately, leaving her alone again. Where had he gone? Paya said something about a house in Hataneo. Was he coming back? She hoped he would. When? When? In the southwest corner of Hyrule, Link wakes up in his home in Hataneo, light spilling over his face. It takes a minute before he remembers. It's over. There is no calamity anymore. He reminds himself every morning that it's over. The light over his face reminds him of the gold spilling from Zelda's palm as the calamity shrunk behind it. It's over, and he is tired and he doesn't know what to do. What happens when the hero isn't needed anymore? He eyes the sword that's been his companion since he was just a boy. He can feel her weight on his back and the responsibility it held from his bed. If the world no longer needs the hero, does the hero need the sword? What will it be like to be separated from her? He had spent a century away from her, a century and more. What will she think of him without his sword? He'd spent a century away from her, too. He felt he knew the sword better. He sits up and drops his face into his hands. Zelda hadn't been real, not really, just a voice and broken bits of memory that he wasn't sure were really his or not. They could have belonged to someone else entirely, whoever the boy who went into the Shrine of Resurrection had been. He wasn't the boy who had gone in. He was the one who'd come out. He still wasn't sure who that was. She asked if he remembered, and he'd said yes, but he remembered what he'd been shown as he struggled to get back. It was so strange to finally see her as she sealed the calamity. So strange to have her speak directly to him, to touch her. It had been too much, so he dutifully brought her to Impa, and then he went home to try and wrap himself around his current reality. He raised his head again and looked at the sword, wondering if she'd like to go home too. Maybe it isn't truly over until he puts the sword away. And now he has a purpose again, for a while. Zelda found her way into the quiet routines of Kakariko, getting up as a cuckoo crowed at daybreak and taking a morning meal with Impa. She had been shocked seeing Impa her first day back. She recognized her eyes peering out from the wrinkled face, recognized the sense of humor and duty immediately. But where time had not passed for Link or Zelda, it had rumbled on for everyone else. Just another casual cruelty of the goddess, Zelda thought. It wasn't enough to sacrifice her friends and family on the day calamity struck. Would anything ever be enough? Impa's granddaughter is at least as old as Zelda had been the day of the calamity, and it's so strange to think of Impa as a grandmother. Paya could be Impa's twin, and Zelda finds herself doing double takes around her, though where Impa had been bold, Paya is shy and skittery as a deer. Perhaps that is what growing up under the Calamity does. Everyone had grown up with the Calamity in the backs of their minds. Well, Impa remembered before, and so did Zelda, maybe Link. She wondered how long she would wait for him to come back, if he was coming back. Maybe it's time to move on with whatever is next. She runs her hands through her hair. It still falls to her waist. She was a different person then. Maybe it's time for change. The Deku Tree welcomed him back, and the Koroks were happy to see him. They always were. It's peaceful in the Korok Forest. The light is eternally summer, early in the day, before it's too hot. It filters down through the vibrant greens of the regular trees and the pink of the Deku Tree and dapples the crumbling pedestal set in a triangular slab of stone in the center of the forest. Link rests with his back against the tree, sword across his thighs, looking out at the pedestal, taking note of the faint blue glow of a silent princess on the far side of the triangle. He has been in the Korok Forest for a week, maybe 2. It's been nice to be welcomed as though he is home. It's been good to just stop for a while. It's been good to rest, really rest. But he has come here with a purpose, and today is the day he's going to finish it. He isn't sure what he'll do after, but today he puts the sword to bed. He will worry about tomorrow another time. Maybe he'll just live in the Korok Forest forever. He doubts the spirits of the forest would turn him out. He slides a finger carefully along the bevel on the blade, up to the Triforce embossed on it near the hilt. Maybe he will know what to do once it is at rest again. When it is done, he sits at the edge of the cracked stone slab, back to the sword with the cobalt hilt where it rests in its pedestal, a silent princess in his hands. He turns the delicate blossom gently, taking care not to bruise the petals. His hands are calloused from swinging that sword, and the bloom almost too precious for him to handle. He brings it to his nose and inhales deeply. The princess has a subtle fragrance. You need to be close to detect it. You'll miss a silent princess unless you know to look for them. There's a tug at the back of his mind, the memory of a memory that vanishes when he turns to it. He pulls back and strokes the pale blue and white petals. Maybe he should go look. He rides into Kakariko late in the afternoon wearing something simple. He rides in through the western gate, the one closer to the woods. The blue tunic doesn't seem right anymore, so it's folded up inside of the saddlebag. Maybe he will leave it with Impa. He doesn't think he needs it anymore. He ground ties the horse at the entrance and walks into town, not sure where he wants to go first. Maybe he should see Impa to leave the tunic. Maybe he should see if she is still here. Oh! He doesn't recognize her immediately because her hair is shorter than his, and she isn't wearing anything he's ever seen before, just a simple gown tied at the waist. But she stops him in his tracks, and they simply stare, unsure of how to proceed. He feels like she has always done the talking, and she does so now, after a long, awkward moment. It's good to see you again, Link. He isn't sure what to say, isn't sure it's good to see her. Instead, he blushes and rubs the back of his neck. He realizes his mouth is dry and licks his lips, and is she looking at his lips? Why would she do that? She brings her hands up and brushes her own lips with her fingers. Her eyes dart back to his. It's good to see you, she repeats, her cheeks pink. His pulse quickens and he feels flutters, fairies, butterflies maybe, below his sternum. There's a ghost at the back of his mind, something partially remembered, but with no image on the slate to anchor it. It slips from him, a startled fish seeking deeper waters. How long has he been staring at her? Hello, princess, he finally stammers. She seems taken aback. There is no more monarchy in Hyrule, no kingdom, no princesses, not anymore. What brings you back to Kakariko? She sounds casual, but her eyes look right over his shoulder, where that cobalt hilt with its flipped crossguard has rested the entire time she has known him before now. The weapon with that crossguard rests in its pedestal deep in the Lost Woods again, sleeping and waiting for the next hero who needs it. She has never seen him without it. What brings him to Kakariko indeed? You. I came to see Impa. It's subtle, but something in her falls as she whispers, Oh, I can walk with you if you want. He nods and rubs the back of his neck again. He falls into a leisurely pace with her as they wind their way past the curious quiver. It's odd to walk beside her. Every memory he has, almost, is trailing her, except for that day when whoever he had been ended. He's used to seeing squared shoulders, her head held high, steps sure. By her side, she tilts her face to him a little, and her stride is slow. "Where have you been?" she asks. "I went home," he says. She simply nods. It is silent between them. Impa's house with its grand staircase grows closer. Zelda begins to drift toward the stairs. Link sets his eyes forward to the hill that overlooks the village. He has changed his mind. Impa's waited a long time. A little longer won't matter. Zelda pauses at the archway and puts her foot on the first step. When Link continues walking, she glances up the steps, then to him, and follows. They climb up the hill, and at some point her hand brushes his, and she slips 2 fingers against his palm. He closes his own fingers around hers, and that ghost of a memory flutters through him again. She smiles. At the top of the hill, there is a shrine, all lit up in blue. It's where he learned to dodge and parry, hard lessons learned, relearned, shortly after he came down from the plateau. Just beyond it, the view stretches out to Hyrule Castle with its broken towers and dead greenways. It's been 6 months now, 6 months since the calamity had been cleared away by both of them. Wildflowers dot the fields, bright bits of color standing in contrast to the castle beyond. "Princess," he starts. "Please, I'm just Zelda. There's no kingdom anymore. There's no need for a princess." He considers this and lets go of her 2 fingers so he can interlace his fingers with hers properly. She closes her eyes and takes a breath. There is no princess and no kingdom. There is no need for a hero either. Zelda. If there is no princess, kingdom, or hero, then they can rest. He lowers himself to the ground, pulling her with him. She leans against him, and he releases her hand again to slide his around her waist, and this time the memory is more than a ghost. It slips from him, but perhaps it will be back later. He closes his eyes and rests his chin on her shoulder. She is warm, and she is there, and she might be the closest anyone has ever come to understanding who he was and who he might be. "Do you really remember, Link?" She turns just enough so the words are in his ear. "No. Maybe." He does not open his eyes, even when her fingers find his cheek. "Maybe it doesn't matter. We are not who we were anymore." "Who are we then?" Her fingers press into his jaw, coaxing him to turn to face hers. When he does open his eyes, his view is just her, short blonde hair and wide green eyes. She studies him the way she studied that frog that day. "Who are we, Link?" He does not have words for that. He uses his mouth to answer her anyway. She is warm. She moves to meet him, lips soft, breath soft. And he remembers. And then there's some notes at the end. They say, "I really hope this landed softly for you." After this, they went and cuddled in a nice soft bed for like 12 hours and then had French toast and cinnamon and sugar together.
That was beautiful. Oh my goodness.
I really love this one. Just it shows... I love fan fiction of Link and Zelda being so human.
Yes, they're so cute.
Like, because I love the idea of like, these people have changed. Like, there's so many times of like, my best friend from my childhood, and then like in a movie they meet up for the first time in 20 years and they hit it off like nothing's changed. But 20 years, you have changed. Like, dear Lord, I hope things have changed. So like seeing this and like the weight of change, technically he's not different, but he is, because he doesn't know who he was, and she's suffered through 100 years of whatever. And so that's going to change both of them. And I love it. Oh, this was so good. This was fantastic.
It's just...
I also like love the way Dr. Steggy did like the way Link talks. Like, it's very, very few words, but the words that are said are so impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I like how it's short. Good. Like I love how he's written and the way he speaks. Like I try to portray that in reading it. And I especially love the line, maybe it doesn't matter, we are not who we were anymore. I love that coming from him.
Yeah.
Because like one of the big things in like Breath of the Wild is that like, yeah, he just doesn't talk a lot, but I feel like when he does speak, it's just to get information out or to deep stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. I was going to make a joke of like, wow, she translated so well, but...
yes.
No, this was beautiful. It was comforting, and like you could have told me that this was a story of star-crossed lovers or something along those lines, and I would have believed that this was original fic.
Yeah, no,
that's
very
true,
well done.
Cool.
Yeah. So, what's our next story?
David, you ready to read our next one?
Yes. So our next one is from Unovian, I believe is pronounced. I'm probably going to butcher that. I apologize. This is a Pokemon story, and before we do that, there's a little bit of context. This fic is based on a character that I RP'd in a Pokemon AU RP server that I hold very dear to my heart in this Cypher Ball setting. Newly invented devices called Cypher Balls can transform a human into a Pokemon. They can then be treated to become hybrids. People with the ability to switch in between human and Pokemon forms. Sometimes they are victims of those who use Cypher Balls as a weapon. Sometimes they use Cypher Balls as a mode of self-expression. But in any case, these new hybrids are trying to find a place in a world that fears or misunderstands them. Kind of like mutants in the X-Men.
I want to be a Bulbasaur.
Not surprised.
Yeah, I was looking for the surprise and I could not find it. The specific story was based on what was about a tournament that appeared to be a catching contest. Instead, pitted human-turned Pokemon against each other, against their will. Our Chelsea, quote-unquote, was one of these participants. After the story, I started imagining about what it would be like for her to try and recover from the event, and the result was a series of quaint scenes that is some part of Kafka's Metamorphosis, some parts hurt/comfort fic, and all parts strange and wonderful. However, I didn't get around to writing this until I randomly woke up and decided to tell it from the father's perspective. And the rest, as they say, is history. Chapters 8 and 9 come after Chelsea ran away. Her father searched for her, and her father united with her only to find that she is traumatized in the body of a giant flaming centipede. These scenes were the ones that sparked the fic, and the ones that I best represent the essence of the story. Hopefully, that wasn't too long for an explanation, but even if you aren't into Pokemon or don't get the AU, I hope that these themes of parenthood, care, and raising a child that just wants to be the very best resonate with you readers. Enjoy. So, without further ado, very, very LeVar Burton's-esque, everybody take a deep breath. Chelsea's father. Chapter 8. 3 days later. You get up early this morning. There's still more to be done. First, research. You need to figure out how to take care of Chelsea while she's in the body of a giant flaming centipede. So, you first look up Centiskorch to get an idea of what this unfamiliar Pokemon is. Centiskorch creates flammable gases by fermenting its food within its body. These gases are then burned in the heat-generating organs along its belly. The process produces so much fire that the flames overflow from both the antennae on its head and from its rear end. While its burning body is already dangerous on its own, this excessively hostile Pokemon also has large and very sharp fangs. This Pokemon is so belligerent by nature that it will indiscriminately attack anything that gets close to it. Hostile, dangerous, belligerent. You don't like the sound of that. As if literally being on fire wasn't enough, she's apparently also a violent Pokemon? What if people avoid her because of this reputation? Or worse yet, what if that changes her personality? You can't waste time worrying about that. You then look up Centiskorch Care, and behold, the warnings about how dangerous this Pokemon continues here. Apparently it's common for trainers to train a Sizzlipede, only to quit training it when it evolves and they find out how much more voracious they become. Despite all this, it seems like this fails to stop lots of trainers from trying to train a Centiskorch. All because of some Galar gym leader who trains one. In that case, looks like Chelsea probably knows more about this Pokemon than you do. There's suddenly a scraping sound coming from Chelsea's room. What was that? Then you hear a long screech. Chelsea's awake. You rush to open the door for her. Chelsea's very angry. It doesn't take you to speak Pokemon to find out. She makes a beeline to the kitchen, then raises her head, opens her mouth, and points to it. You're hungry. She nods, and then points even more furiously. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just about to order Pokemon food. Let me see what we have for now. You open up the fridge. The options are limited. There's some leftover fish in the corner, and some meat in the stir-fry Greta ordered in case Chelsea came home. But you certainly didn't expect to have enough meat to feed a big carnivore like Centiskorch. You take out the leftovers. Then there's the matter of what to serve it. Should you use the takeout box, a regular bowl? A Pokemon feeding bowl? Maybe the latter would be easier to eat out of, if less dignifying. Then there were some in the house, but they all belong to Usagi, Yoko's Umbreon. However, she's since moved out, with her feeding bowl, to the hospital to accompany her trainer. Maybe there's an old backup somewhere. While the food warms up, you dig through the piles of old, forgotten dinnerware to find a battered metal feeding bowl, and hurriedly spoon the leftovers in. I'm sorry, this is all I have, you say as you place the bowl on the ground. Chelsea stops pacing around the kitchen and digs in. She eats it all in an instant. Good grief. I'm going to order some food. You're not leaving Chelsea home alone, so you order food online. After ordering the groceries for the week, you come upon the task of ordering food for Chelsea for today and for tomorrow. As you scroll through the options of Pokemon feed for carnivores, you wonder if the feed that Yoko usually gets for Usagi would suffice. Or you'll have to hunt down something more specific for such a big bug type like Chelsea. Chelsea stops by to look and tilts her head. I'm ordering Pokemon food for you. Chelsea growls in protest and flares up. Whoa! Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what else you can eat. It's just going to be for 2 days, okay? Chelsea stops, grumbles, and crawls away in defeat. You genuinely don't know what Chelsea could eat, but it's either Pokemon feed or dragging more live meat than you'd like to in the house. You order the special bug-type feed. Hopefully the special part makes up for it. Chelsea needs something to do. You're worried about her grades, after all. She hasn't been at school or doing her homework for the last few days. So you draw the blinds to the living room so nobody asks why there's suddenly a Centiskorch in your house, and play some educational videos on the television before you are pulled away by a call from work. After that call, you go check the work inbox. You get plenty of messages along the lines of, "Thank goodness Chelsea's okay," and "I'll be thinking of your family." You suddenly hear frantic pacing. You rush into the living room, where Chelsea's racing around, messing up the carpet, and about to knock over the side table. "Chelsea, no!" you shout. She stops in her tracks, then grumbles. The educational videos are still playing. But now you realize that they're boring her. What were you thinking? She just came out of a traumatizing event that turned her into a giant flaming bug. For crying out loud, she's in no position to be educated. You sigh. Do you want to do something else? Chelsea nods and crawls over the sofa to point at the window. She wants to go outside. Of course she does. She spends as much time climbing trees and playing football as she does watching league matches. Chelsea, we can't have anybody see you like this. Chelsea grumbles. I know you want to go outside, but please, people will ask questions. We don't want to draw too much attention to ourselves. You have to stay inside until we go to Kalos to get you treated. I'm sorry. Chelsea slumps defeated. Well, if she can't go outside like she used to, maybe... How about we play some league matches? Chelsea immediately perks up. She nods vigorously. With a heavy sigh, you pick up your phone to switch the video. You've never voluntarily played Pokemon League matches on the telly before. They were never your taste. It was only when Yoko insisted, or Chelsea snuck onto Yoko's phone, did Pokemon battles ever play in the house. Yet, here you are, playing league matches on the television, because your daughter just turned into a creature with no hands and desperately needs some sense of normalcy. Without much thought, you play the first thing you see when you search Galar Pokemon League. which is a live stream. There's a gym leader with ice-type Pokemon about to begin a match with the same gym leader you learned about in your research. The Hoennian man with the center scorch. How quaint. Chelsea rests on the floor, then watches the battle transfixed. You have to admit, you're watching too. Another Centiskorch is in battle, and it's binding, tearing, and slamming its way through its opponent. It's an impressive, fiery display of power. So this is what Chelsea's species is known for. It must be strange watching a Centiskorch in battle when she's suddenly won herself. You can usually tell if she's watching a league match, even from across the house, when she hollers and jumps around the living room. But this time, she's as still as a statue. Before long, a big wave of water washes the bug off screen, and you come back to reality. At least Chelsea's sitting still for now. Relieved, you go back to work. The Pokemon feed arrives. You serve one large sack to Chelsea for dinner. She eats her fill, but seems depressed while eating. Now that you think about it, what would she even eat on the island? Shortly after dinner, the doorbell rings. Stay back, okay? You whisper to Chelsea, and she recedes into the living room. You check that all the blinds are drawn, then rush to the door. It's Louise, Greta, and Greta's Grookney. Hi, Mr. Kobayashi! We're here to see Chelsea. Is she okay? You reply, oh, thank you for thinking about her. Unfortunately, she's ill and sleeping right now, so she can't see you right now. Oh, that's too bad. What happened to Chelsea, Mr. Kobayashi? She's ill, that's all, but otherwise she's fine. What kind of ill? Did it have to do with where she went? Louise, it's okay, Greta sighs. Pulls out a few sheets of paper from her bag. This is Chelsea's homework. We thought we'd give them to her while she's gone. I brought biscuits too! Why, thank you. You take the homework and the biscuits. You two are very kind friends. Suddenly, Greta's Grookie lets out a startled howl and jumps behind the trainer's shoulder. Druid, what's going on? Is that a Centiskorch over there? Oh no. You turn around, and surely enough, Chelsea's peeking out from behind the living room opening. Your heart plummets. You rush to close the door and try to muster the words. It's nothing! Sorry, I have to attend to other things. Thank you so much. Goodbye! It's hard to close the door without slamming it. You sigh a breath of relief, then look through the peephole. Greta and Louise are definitely, completely, and utterly confused, but thankfully, they're walking away from the house, very, very slowly. You groan and step towards Chelsea. Chelsea, what have you done? She shrinks back from you. Now your friends know that something wrong is happening. What if they tell their parents, and then their parents tell their friends? Before you can finish scolding Chelsea pouts and runs back to her room. You're still working into the night when you hear your phone ring. It's from Yoko. You haven't visited her for the last few days. What are you supposed to say? That Chelsea ran away from home and turned into a Centiskorch? You'll figure it out. You take a deep breath and answer the phone. Hello? Hey, hello. I haven't heard from you in the last few days. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Is everything all right? Yes. That's good to know. How's Chelsea doing? Well, you sigh. She's fallen ill recently. I'm taking care of her. It's just a common cold. She'll be better in no time. There's a long silence, then a sigh. Ah, sorry to hear that. I'll visit you another day. No, I understand. The doctors just said that next round should start next week. A bit nervous, but otherwise, nothing interesting. Just boring things, that's all. I see. Well, I have to go back to work soon. Talk to you another day. Working late again? All right, then see you. See you. You hang up. In reality, you don't need to go back to work. The day has been long enough. You just don't know what to say to Yoko. Chapter 9. 4 days later. You're awakened to the sound of very loud screeching. Panic takes you, and you bolt towards the sound and fling open the door to Chelsea's bedroom. Chelsea's flailing around in her sleep and screaming. The bed frame is on fire. You freeze for a moment before running to the fire extinguisher. When you come back with the extinguisher in hand, you fumble around. How do you use one again? Right, pull on the trigger, aim under the bed, and sweep. Screech! The extinguisher puts out the fire and wakes up Chelsea. You sigh in relief and drop the extinguisher and try to approach Chelsea, coughing out some smoke out of the way. She's breathing heavily and moaning in pain. She's, overall, shaken. The flames on her antennae are much weaker than usual. Oh, gods. Do fire extinguishers hurt fire types too? Oh, I'm so sorry. What happened? Chelsea continues to moan. You really wish you knew what she was saying. This isn't the place to continue talking. You grasp onto Chelsea's legs and find that she's barely cool enough to grasp, even if it still burns. With as much strength as you can muster to move a 120-kilogram bug in the middle of the night, you drag her out from underneath the bed and out of the smoke. You cough again, then ask, what is this? Was it a nightmare? Chelsea nods again. It's okay. The nightmare's over. Still, you can't help but wonder if what happened on the island might lead to more nightmares and more situations like this. Chelsea spends the rest of the night trying to sleep under the coffee table. She's too scared to sleep again. You are, too. The thing that gets you out of bed is another doorbell. You drag yourself out of bed and lumber to the door. The next-door neighbor, an unamused elderly lady with an unamused Pearlion in her arms. Hi, good morning. I'm here to let you know that my dear Pearlion has been rather moody because of the ruckus. I'm sorry about what happened last night. It hasn't been last night. He has excellent hearing, so hears other Pokemon a lot. All throughout yesterday, he's particularly disturbed by what sound like a bug type next door. Bug type? I don't know. Care to explain yourself, sir? You let out a long sigh. You're asking if there's a bug type living in our house. Yes, sir, I am. I quite am. It's a Centiskorch. Dang it. You're bad at lying. But to blurt out like that. A what now? Pet sitting. I'm pet sitting someone else's Centiskorch. You're pet sitting a Centiskorch? Of all things. You let out an exasperated sigh. Look, normally it's quite well behaved. I'll just ask it to quiet down. I sure hope so, sir. The lady scoffs and turns around and walks away. Come on, Kitty, let us not waste more time with this man. You also hope you don't waste more time dealing with neighbors and shut the door. You tell Chelsea about the neighbor and ask her to quiet down, just a little bit. You don't think it'll help. As you continue to answer email after email, hear pitter-pattering coming from the living room, Chelsea must be getting bored of the league matches. But otherwise, no big deal, right? You'll then hear pitter-pattering going up on the other side of the wall in front of you. Does crawling damage drywall? You would check the situation, but of course, your phone decides to ring. You hear a loud crash in the middle of the phone call. I'm sorry, I'll be right back. You hurriedly hang up and run to the living room, where you're greeted with the sight of a knocked-over lamp and Chelsea crawling across the wall, trying to reach for the fallen lamp. Chelsea, no! Your shout startles her. With a whimper, she loses grip of the wall and comes crashing down right on top of the bookshelf. Crash! She hits the ground, as does the bookshelf. Books spill everywhere, and Chelsea lands sprawled across the wreck. What have you done? You holler. This is terrible! You don't go around wrecking things like a wild Pokemon. Bad girl, bad! You stop. Chelsea's crying in pain. Oh my god. You let out a long sigh. How could you forget that the Pokemon in front of you is your daughter? I'm so sorry, Chelsea. You kneel down to her level. You can't bring yourself to look at her. Instead, you move a book or two out of the way. Chelsea, I'm still mad at you for damaging the living room. The living room is more of a mess than you realized at first. The pillows and the carpet are strewn all over the place. And indeed, Chelsea is crawling, left marks all over the living room walls and ceiling. It's her fault, yet you realize she's sorry. She's not looking away in defiance, but in remorse. She doesn't look like she meant to knock over so much furniture just by crawling on the wall. Why did you do this? You hear Chelsea sigh and then start speaking. Again, you can't understand anything from the string of screeches, but the mumbling sound quiet and shaky. She then pauses then goes into a heartbroken rant, paces around the living room, crawls up the wall, then points out the window. Her voice cracks, and then she collapses on the floor. She curls up in despair. You don't like where this is going. You tried so hard to make sure she was safe and happy at home before she could get treated. You had to, because what might happen if Chelsea sets foot outside and other people notice? Well, if Chelsea doesn't set foot outside, this is what happens. And at the end of the day, Chelsea is still who she is, a human child with human child needs. You sigh. Why don't we take a walk? You bundle up and lead Chelsea out the door. A cool autumn breeze hits you, and you sigh in relief. It's the first time you've been out of the house the last few days, and frankly, you could use some of the fresh air too. Come on, Chelsea. You look back and motion for her to follow. Chelsea's stepping out of the house very, very slowly, taking in the chilly outdoor air. She picks up the pace, but can't stop looking around. She's never seen the neighborhood from this angle before. She catches up, and you two make your way to the park. You don't want to stay outside for too long, just enough for Chelsea to get moving. Otherwise, you don't want to attract the attention of too many people. It's a quiet walk for obvious reasons. You can't talk to each other. There's the odd pedestrian, the odd car, the odd flying taxi overhead, but thankfully, the streets are not too crowded, for a weekday afternoon at least. However, you can't help but wonder if Pokemon are also capable of spreading rumors. As you approach the park, you only see two elderly people sitting with their Pokemon on park benches, one jogger with a Yamper following suit, and a couple of Pokemon, human toddlers, playing on the playground. Not bad. You and Chelsea just have to act casual and... Oh, Mr. Kobayashi, what are you doing here? It's that neighbor, the old gentleman from Unova, that is always walking around in a trench coat and a hoot-hoot on his head. He seems to have this annoying habit of saying hello with almost everyone he passes by. Thought you were at work, You stammer. No, I'm pet sitting someone's Pokemon today. Really? He chuckles, glances at Chelsea and asks, what kind of friend makes you take a day off work to pet sit their Pokemon? Well, He suddenly lets out a hearty laugh. No, I'm just messing with you, Mr. Kobayashi. You seem to be doing a fine job handling this what's it called, a Centiscorch? Usually these fellas are, well, rather hot-tempered. She's well-trained. Well, I'll send my salutations to the trainer. The hoot-hoot on his head then suddenly hoots, and the Unovan man perks up. Well, that'll be my cue to head home. Have a good day, Mr. Kobayashi. He walks away, and you sigh in relief. Crisis averted. You look towards Chelsea. She's a bit behind you. Having scuttled away at the sudden sound of the hoot, you whisper, Are you okay? Chelsea nods, and then looks at the playground. You might draw too much attention if you play there. Granted, the playground could accommodate Pokemon as well, but the sight of a giant 3-meter-long centipede crawling up a playground ladder would be too strange not to notice. Let's keep on walking. Chelsea grumbles and quickly scrapes the dirt underneath her with one of her legs. What do you mean? She grumbles again, then pauses before approaching you and tapping you in the leg, and sprinting off into the open lawn. Wait, Chelsea! You sprint off to try and catch up to her. Either Centiscorch are much faster than they seem, or you're getting old. You realize that you and Chelsea are playing tag. You also realize that you haven't played with Chelsea in the park since the year you moved to Galar. It's nice to be able to play again. You are packing Chelsea's belongings for the trip to Kalos. You pack her passport, her tickets, her documents. It's then time to pack things she'll need for an overnight stay in Kalos. You start packing her toothbrush, some toothpaste, some floss, and other toiletries. It reminds you of the fact that Chelsea will be back to being a human soon. It's coming sooner than you think. You head to the bedroom and start looking through her closet. Good thing the fire didn't burn more than it did, you think, as you rummage through the jumbled up piles of shirts and socks. You hear a small screech behind you, and then you see Chelsea at the door. She approaches you and tilts her head. I'm just packing for tomorrow's trip. You need something to wear when you're human again. Chelsea stops and thinks, then suddenly sprints towards the closet, nudging you out of the way. She then digs through a pile of shirts, painstakingly dragging each one each shirt out one by one, with her mandibles before pulling out one item in particular. You grab it to see that it's a colorful graphic t-shirt featuring the Galar champion and its Charizard. You grimace. It's a gaudy shirt, in your opinion. Where did she even get it? Are you sure you want to wear this, Chelsea? Chelsea nods vigorously. All right. Anything to make her happy. Chelsea is sleeping under the kitchen table today. After a sleepless night and a day at the park, Chelsea's tired enough to be sleeping soundly tonight. You, on the other hand, sleep less soundly. There's still much to worry about. If something else goes wrong while you're sleeping, if something goes wrong on your way to Kalos, leaving Chelsea stuck as a giant bug for longer than you'd like, if something goes wrong while she gets hybridized, not to mention, you'll have to deal with the damage in the living room and Chelsea's bedroom at some point. You force yourself to remember that things will be all right. All that matters is that tomorrow, Chelsea will become, for the most part, human again. But what happens next? You realize in all your efforts to survive the last 2 days, you haven't thought about what comes after. Finn.
Yay!
Wow. Intense.
That was like, I would not have thought of like having like Pokemon human hybrids and stuff. I actually had to go look up the Pokemon because I didn't know what a Centiskorch looked like. And it might be my Pokemon like bug bias because I don't usually like bug ones. And that one's scary looking.
It is.
Dude, I love the idea of this guy like trying to take care of their daughter turning into this thing. And like, she's still her, but she's like feral too.
Yes.
Like nature versus nurture, and there's a lot of nature in a Centiskorch, I can imagine.
That was so entertaining.
That was great. It was very visual without being overly descriptive.
Yeah.
I could see the living room clearly. I could see the bedroom that was on fire. The old lady and her
nosy
Pokemon.
Nosy neighbor.
Oh, thanks for doing the fun voices too. I had a lot of fun listening.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for sending in your stories. It sounds like we're going to expand to a 2-part episode, so you'll hear the rest of the stories next time, which is I'm super excited for.
I'm way excited. These have been really awesome to read, and I don't know, I want to read the other ones too and make sure that we give them all the time that they deserve.
Yes. Let's see. Do we have any horror stories?
We have a happy kind of thing from our Discord.
Ooh, yeah. I like happy stories.
So it's not like a super happy story. There was Dr. Steggy mentioned, speaking of Dr. Steggy, this is not a horror story, but I got cast in a music video that is shooting on Sunday, and they found me via my cosplay Instagram, cosplay stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
She did post today that she was going to be doing a live stream Q&A on her Legend of Zelda stuff and her fan fiction stuff, and it was really fun to watch. I was able to jump in on that. That was really cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
Yay.
It was super cool.
Nice. So now I wish I had, I had work, but I wish I had still. Because, after reading that, I'm like, oh, this is so good and inspiring. And now I'm going to go finish my Zelda fanfic.
Good. That's like one of my favorite things with fan creation. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, David.
You're good.
But yeah, it's one of my favorite things is like the inspiration. I feel like it passes on to the people who enjoy it,
Yes.
Like you're not just enjoying that story. It also, like, if it drives you to like build on that and create things of your own, that's amazing.
Yeah, totally. I was just going to do a quick, thank the authors one more time. Thank you so much, Dr. Steggy. Thank you so much, X-Angel, and thank you so much, Unovian. These were fantastic to read. Go search them up on their
AO3?
AO3, thank you.
Yeah.
Archive of our own. If they've got them there, Dr. Steggy is that on on AO3. I'm never going to get it right. And
AO 500.
AO 16,000, 1616. I don't know.
Oh, no.
And same with Unovian. X-Angel was kind enough to write that out and send it directly to us. That was really fantastic. Again, thank you.
Yay.
Wonderfully done, guys. Thank you.
If you guys want to send us stuff in the future, you can always reach out to us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com or
you can fill out the Googly Google form on our website at cosplaystitchandseam.com or
go to our Facebook page and send us a message there. And while you're there, join our awesome community that was so kind to take part of this community project and send us some of their fan fiction. And if you didn't send us your fan fiction and you've got some stuff, you can still send it to us on our Discord channel, on our fan creations channel, exclusively just for stuff that you're creating. Some people are doing their fan art. Some people are doing what they're writing. It's been a lot of fun to see all of that. And while you're on the internet sharing all of these great stories, we would really appreciate any help that you could by sharing the podcast with a friend or leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Podchaser, wherever they honestly let you. We would appreciate the shout out. It's super helpful with the algorithm and all of those things. And while you're on the internet, and if you've got a couple of bucks kicking around, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/cosplaystitch. Like I said at the top of the show, $3 a month, we give you a shout out on the show. And for $5 a month, you get to join our Cosplay Chronicles. Some of those amazing people that we have to thank this time round are Cynics at Queer Eye Sci-Fi, Howl Cause, Hot Riku, Rena Mira, Jazzy Kofed, Jaguar Quinn, Gloria Shu, Sudi, Stacy Pitt, Shock H, and Silver Deeds.
Yeah! Thank you guys so much. In lieu of doing our monthly Cosplay Chronicles Patreon exclusive, we're doing a live event at SaltCon. It's going to be Sunday, August 1st at 1 p.m. You can still grab some tickets, grab a seat at our table, and have a bunch of fun with us. And yeah, I'm super excited for that.
I can't wait.
And then this Saturday, bring your brushes. Just kidding.
No.
Just watch the video. When you bring your brushes.
Yay. Just a few more days.
Yes.
As always, check out foxbeautycosmetics.com. Use the promo code Stitch and Seam to receive 10% off your all vegan, not tested on animal products. Remember, they got that new highlighter coming out soon. I'm super excited for that. Yes. Thanks as always to Macy Roberts for the use of her theme song and David for his amazing editing. We appreciate you so much. How are your podcasts going?
Oh, they're going so great. Comic Trades Monthly, we were able to talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the comic book series. It was so much fun, and it was the first time that we got back into the studio, Dane and I, and so we got to exchange like presents that we've been holding on to for the past year. And he got some very, very nice people who are very high in notoriety to say very nice things to me for my birthday. So that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Not to spoil it, you should go listen to the episode because I think I about cried and peed myself out of excitement. Like, I couldn't help it.
Amazing.
If you enjoyed X-Angel's the last voice fic, go and find out what happens next in the last voice that I wrote, produced, directed, and may need to update some of the canon now because that was fantastic. So those are my things.
Yay! Thanks, David. I was going to try to put together like a birthday pun, but this whole birthday thing is just getting old. Don't you think? Hey. I'm old.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.